Welcome to Jill on Money, powered by The Compound. It is Ed Slott, part 2, and this is what you guys have all been begging us for. We have the man who convinced you, Mark Talercio,
correct,
about the virtue of
You're
a Roth.
welcome.
Thank you, Ed.
Ed Slott, Ed Slott and Company, CPA, IRAhelp.com. Welcome back. So, Mark, I'm going to let you lead this conversation about the Roth because this is
Start with your doubting Tom. You were a doubter. You were.
I don't know that I was a doubter. I just don't know if I wasn't
didn't want to pay the tax.
I wasn't as informed as I am now. I didn't know all the benefits. But Roth, anything to do with Roth, whether it's contributing to a Roth IRA or converting in a Roth IRA, it is by far the most popular question we get every day.
Everybody knows the Roth IRA is the single greatest account to own. The only question is how much you're willing to pay for it.
Okay.
That's it.
Why is it the single greatest account to own?
Because it grows tax-free. I love tax-free. You know, I do a lot. I said before, I do a lot of consumer programs. And the one thing I always open up with, because we're sitting here talking, and there's certain things that professionals, even myself, we take our own knowledge for granted. We think if we know something, everybody must know it. It's so simple, but it's not true. And I always start by telling them the difference between tax deferred and tax free. They actually think, most people, their IRA money or 401k money is theirs. It is not. That is a joint account with Uncle Sam. That's what that is. Now, you know what a joint account...
He's the beneficiary? Uncle Sam's the beneficiary?
Exactly. Oh, to put it another way, I always say your IRA is an IOU to the IRS.
There you go.
That's what your IRA is. But married people know when I say a joint account, they mean each spouse owns 50-50. A joint account with Uncle Sam doesn't work that way. We don't know Uncle Sam's share until Congress tells us what the rates will be when we come to take out our money. It could be Uncle Sam's joint account, in quotes. His share could be 60%. Or maybe larger, and your share could be 40. I used to have clients coming in, and they used to be so proud their IRA. I remember this one guy says, I did it. He brought in the statement. I've got $1 million in my IRA. And I said, what are you looking at? That's not yours. It's just temporarily on your letterhead. You're not keeping any of that. I said, there's tax built in there.
People still think that when they put the money away on a tax deferred, they get their tax deduction today. Mm-hmm. The money grows. They forget that when they take it out, they have to pay the tax due. And what you are actually saying goes back to your beautiful history of U.S. tax rates, that the tax rates that you would be paying in the future are unknown.
Right.
And today, with tax rates at close to or probably historically low levels,
yes,
your thesis is...
No, it's not it's a bet.
Okay.
That's all the Roth IRA is a bet on future tax rates.
Okay, and what's the bet?
I believe if they're higher, you will always win that bet.
Are you willing to say...
In retirement, when you take it out.
So you believe that tax rates today are as low as they're going to be. They're not going to get cut further, and that in the future, tax rates will likely rise.
Being possible, because I believe in a four-letter... let me put it this way. The greatest threat to your retirement savings is a four-letter word.
Which is?
Well, it's not kids.
Uh-huh.
Everybody thinks it's that.
Yeah.
And I'm still waiting for that investment to pay off. One of the worst investments ever.
Yeah.
It's not kids. It's math, M-A-T-H. As an accountant, I got to believe in math. I see these debt levels just across 34 trillion with a T. I used to say that was a phone number, but now it's bigger than the phone number, even with the area code and the one. I mean, the whole country's living on a credit card. So I have to believe, I understand Congress will keep kicking the can down the road, but at some point, the math has got to kick in. And when the music stops, the people with tax deferred money, and that brings me back to the first thing I tell every group, the difference between tax deferred. And I always tell them the difference between tax deferred and tax free is humongous. And it comes down to one little 3-letter word. That's the difference. Y-E-T, yet. Tax deferred means you won't pay taxes on that money yet. And I always hesitate, and they say it, yet. But you will at some future balance, maybe higher, at a higher rate. as opposed to tax-free, which means you'll never pay taxes on that money. And that's when I tell them I have certain always rules, because you hear people, not me and probably not Jill on TV and everything, they're so wishy-washy to give financial advice. Oh, maybe, probably, could be, should be. You never know, So I always give my always rules, things that are always true. And I always kick it off with my first always rule, non-negotiable, always true. Tax-free is always better. You keep 100% of your money. You don't have to share it with anyone. And I'm not a good sharer. That's why I love Ross. Even when I go to a restaurant, growing up, I like to get with my kids, we go out to eat. I like to get a shrimp cocktail, but they only give you like 3 shrimp.
And you're not a sharer.
No, if I give
good to
one away,
remember.
if I give one away, that's a 33% loss. I tell them, get your own.
Get your own.
So
All right.
I'm not a sharer. I don't want to share. And you mentioned uncertainty. That's the key to the Roth IRA. It's the uncertainty of what future higher tax rates, if you believe in math like I do, can do to your standard of living in retirement. So what do you think people say to that argument?
They say, well,
In retirement,
I'll be in a lower tax
tax
all right,
bracket.
so let me hit that. That never happens, okay?
Why?
Why? Well, look at the tax rates now. First of all, remember, if you don't convert, and what we're talking about converting, moving from an IRA to a Roth, and then it grows tax-free for the rest of your life, income tax-free, and 10 years beyond, even with the Secure Act. Income tax-free, you never have to worry about taxes ever again, and you never have to take money out unless you want to, and then it's income tax-free. So people say, so if you don't convert, the problem, I call the IRA a problem, a growing, building, compounding debt. It was Einstein that once said compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. Supposedly he said that anyway. But there was another, and everybody understands that, compounding interest. I'm sure you talk about it. You have money in the bank, it compounds, blah, blah, blah. But there was another part to that quote that is not as well known. And it says, he who understands it, the theory of compounding, he who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. What Einstein was saying is compounding works both ways. It doesn't discriminate. If you owe money, it works against you. Ask anybody who hasn't paid a credit card bill in 3 months. They know what compounding debt is. That's what I look at as an IRA. It's a growing, building, compounding debt, and it's growing and growing. So for the people who say I'll be in a lower bracket in retirement and I'm not converting now, that means you're letting this debt grow, and it doesn't go away. At 73, that's the new required minimum distribution RMD age, it could be, if you let it grow enough, your RMDs will exceed the income you had. And I had that with somebody. I remember doing a tax return for this guy years ago, and I was telling him about the Roth, and he came to me all happy. His first full year retired, waiting for this, low tax bill.
Yeah.
So no income, no W-2, first full year of retirement. I give him the return. He says, how could this be? My income's higher than my best earnings years. How could this be? I said, it's easy because you never listen to me.
I mean, I think that is the biggest appeal. For obviously, you eliminate the uncertainty, but the thing that's biggest for me is not being forced to take that money out.
So
and that adds to your income. So if you built up a large IRA, it could very well be, and there are other factors I'll get to, but that the RMD alone could eclipse what your best W-2 was. Plus, you don't have the deductions you have. You don't, and when you're retired, you don't have mortgage interest. You don't have any kid-related.
And you also have a lot of investment income, probably, and capital gains.
And you don't have kid-related tax benefits.
Right.
And you're also getting the standard deduction. So your income is higher and deductions are lower. But people rightfully think, well, unless you make a ton of money, millions of dollars, and obviously if you lose that, that'll make a difference. But for most people that are building up a substantial IRA, they're just doing them, it's just creating a problem for the future.
So I want to just make sure we put this beautiful Ed Slott chart up, and it's called the Uniform Lifetime Table, which is
I didn't name that.
I mean, okay, it's the Ed's, but what this does is it tries to explain to people that when you retire, you've got this account, this joint account with Uncle Sam. Based on tax law right now, you are required to pull out a certain amount of money every year based on your life expectancy.
And that's the key, required. And that's what nobody likes about it. Most people that take these RMDs don't need the money. They take it because they have to. And then because they didn't do the Roth or they had a large IRA, they complain, oh, I have to take this money. I don't even need it. Just adds to my tax bill. And the key is required. Now, I always say to people, you want your plan or the government plan? And sometimes people actually say to me in seminars, Ed, what is the government plan? Maybe I'm interested.
Yeah.
I said, no, it's not. That's totally being out of control and being stuck, constrained by RMDs, forced to take the money, as opposed to a Roth. And the key to the Roth, besides growing tax-free forever, you control your own tax rates. As you convert over the years, you use these low brackets, you decide what rate you're going to pay.
And what's interesting about even looking at this uniform table is that, like, Mark, we've heard from a bunch of people recently, and they're like, let's say they're 50 years old. It's like, I got $2 million in my 401k.
Oh, that's a problem.
And that $2 million is going to be, let's say, $4 million by the time they get to age 75. And when you look at that and you see that there is a percentage of the account balance that must come out, gang, and it starts at 4%-ish.
Yeah,
every year,
based
and
on
it
life
starts to go up. But that means you are forced to pull out that money every year, and you're due to pay the tax
and
no
you're on
matter
the government
what.
plan. It's out of your control.
Out of your control. And that is a huge differential. So for people who are looking at, obviously they would.
Well, I'll tell you some other arguments people have.
Okay.
Another person, I remember this woman stood up at a seminar and said, I love the idea you're talking about a Roth because I'm big on the Roth. I love tax-free. And most people, by the time I finished talking, they love tax-free too. I said, do you want to share your money with Uncle Sam? No, who wants to share? But she says, I like that. But if I convert, won't that add to my income?
Mm-hmm.
She said, well, I'm on Medicare. If that adds to my income, won't my Medicare surcharges, they're called IRMA charges, income-related monthly adjustment amount, but it's a separate charge that anybody who's on Medicare knows that when you hit certain brackets, it goes up and it's a cliff. You can go up by $1 and be in a new bracket for parts B and D. So she said, if that increases my Medicare charges, that would make me very angry. I said, all right, if that would make you angry, convert anyway, because I'd rather have you be angry 1 year than be angry for the rest of your life. Because if you don't do it again, the problem doesn't go away. And when RMDs kick in, you're going to have the thing that makes you angry every year for the rest of your life.
And just to go back to that Medicare income planning, the IRMA charge is when you make over a certain amount of money, you have a surcharge for your Medicare, which it tops out. It's not even, I should say it's not that much, but it isn't terrible. It's $6,000 is the top. It's like a real number.
But it bothers people.
It makes people nuts.
Yeah.
And in fact, I was with somebody who retired who said to me, I had to pay an extra $5,000 for my Medicare.
That means they make over $500,000.
I said, okay, thanks, buddy. Like you make $500,000 and you're retired. So calm down.
Yeah.
So one of the things that becomes important in the questions that we start to field, I think people really do get like, yes, I will do Roth starting now.
But they can't write the check. I remember when Roth first started and I started talking with clients, the hand would shake, I have to pay how much,
So let's lay out the case. It's 2024 now. And let's say we have some rich people who are watching and listening and their top bracket is 35%. They make between, let's say, about $500,000 to $700,000, right? And now we're saying you should convert, and that pops them up to the whatever they convert at 37%. Okay,
yeah.
And they say, why should I do that? And what if this is like a problem? Like, what if they repeal the beauty of the Roth? What if I buy into Ed?
Oh, that's a good one,
right?
And it's not even just a conversion. Like we get questions from people all the time. People in their 30s, 40 years old, they're in that tax bracket. I don't want to do Roth contributions because my tax bracket's going to go down in the future.
You know what? I found, and there's two questions there, but the first one, I get that a lot. I'm already at the top bracket. Shouldn't I be in a lower bracket? I find that people who are in the top bracket are always going to be in the top
making money.
bracket. Right.
Yep.
So maybe it's 37 now. So going back to what I said, the Roth is a bet. the bet is they're going to be at whatever the top bracket is later, and there's more likely it's going to be higher. It's not going to go lower. I just don't see the math of being able to lower rates beyond how low they are now. In fact, rates are scheduled to go up in 26. You only have 2 years.
That's an interesting question also, but hold on a second. So the
other question,
yeah, let's get to that.
Congress? So that's another question. I don't get it as nice as Jill just said it or Mark just said it. But get somebody to say, because they remember about Social Security. They never forget. They tax Social Security and they said
they'll do it again.
Yeah. Can I trust the government to keep its word that Roth IRAs will always be income tax free? And I always answer the same. Absolutely not. We have a saying among accountants, tax laws are written in pencil. You cannot trust the government. But I will tell you this, I don't think they will ever touch the Roth.
Why?
Because lucky for us, Congress are the worst financial planners on earth. They're short-sighted, and they see the Roth as a golden goose. It brings in money. Mm-hmm. They saw that. Their first taste of it was when they needed money back in 2010. Before 2010, if your income exceeded $100,000, you could not convert. In 2010, they needed money, and they eliminated that rule. And that's when people like me, I begged people to take that deal. It was a deal of the century. I went all in. I converted everything. I told, and so they got my money and a lot of other people's money. And I told audiences, and now I remind them. Ever since then, I reminded them. I said I converted everything, and then I'll even tell a group of CPAs, how much did I pay in tax on my conversion? Will, what's your bracket? Zero. That's why I told you to take that deal. It was the deal of the century because Congress was desperate for money, and they saw the boatloads of money. Now, just to qualify that, the deal was you paid zero in 2010. You paid half in 11 and half in 12. But still, the government, which they had never done before, gave everybody an interest-free loan to build a tax-free savings account.
Unbelievable.
And then you look at, now, I didn't know about the market from 2010 till now, but all of those gains for me are growing. I'm not sharing them with anybody.
By the way, just have to say that is like almost the most brilliant move because you also get the bottom of the stock market, which was the spring of 2009.
Yeah.
You convert, you have 2 years to pay, and all that money is working for you.
Right.
Unbelievable.
All right. So Congress saw the money that came in, and they said, well, this Roth thing brings in a lot of money. We could get all our provisions in. And then they started expanding the Roth 401k and making more available. And then they gave the store away. I wouldn't even say they tipped their hand, but they're using Roth IRAs as revenue raises. So I'm saying they not only beyond tip their hand, they just in your face. If you look at Secure 2.0, it's not on this chart. You'd have to actually look at the whole bill, the actual bill. All the Roth enhancement provisions we talked about a little before, Roth SEP IRAs, Roth Simple IRAs, SEP to 529 to Roth IRAs, Roth catch-up contributions, Roth matching, Roth, I called it Rothomania. They are all under one large font heading, like Men Walk on Moon heading in the time. I remember when I was a kid in 1969, that was the largest font they ever put in the New York Times. In large font, it's under the title called revenue provisions. That's where they put all the Roth.
My God.
They look at it as revenue. So luckily for us, they're short-term thinkers. They get it up front. They only work in 10-year budget cycles, so they kick the can down the road. So they like the idea of the Roth because it brings in money up front. The only money that can go into a Roth is already taxed money, and they love that. The fact that they're giving away the store on the back end, take advantage of that short-sightedness. So they could trim around the edges. Maybe they'll do RMDs, or maybe they'll do it as provisional income if you have this much in a Roth, certain other things. But if they ever cross the line and make Roth conversions not as good as they are, they'll kill the golden goose. If they ever do anything that would make people stop converting, they're going to lose all their revenue. Right. So for that reason, I say, again, it's a good bet. First of all, the Roth is here now, so why not take advantage of it now?
Right. They're not going to make it retroactive and say like, oh, you have to now. They're not,
no,
first of all,
there's
no exactly.
It's already taxed money.
Exactly right. So the only thing that I think is at risk would be if someone's like, we can't let this, like, people who make a lot of money can't keep using the Roth. We can't let them convert.
You know what? And there was other signs too that they're going to keep it. The whole thing came out, I think, a year or two ago with Peter Thiel. He had $6 billion in his IRA, and they want to create all these rules for him.
Right, that guy.
For that guy, because nobody else that I know of has $6 billion in their Roth IRA.
Right.
And he did it legitimately.
Yeah.
His original investment was only $1,700.
Now, yes.
But they started other things. They started talking about maybe we should limit who can convert. Maybe we should limit backdoor, Roth convert. But they allowed it all because it brought in money. So that's why I feel the Roth is still a good bet.
Now, let's say that people who are like, we get this kind of person comes on the program all the time. 55 years old. I'm going to retire in 5 years. I got a boatload of money that's in my pre-tax retirement account, but I don't have enough money to really pay for the conversion. Like, I don't have enough liquidity to really convert. How do you feel about we keep telling them? We tell them also, take the money out. Just keep taking the money. You're 60 years old. Take it out.
In effect, what I call dollar cost averaging into the Roth. Do a series. I'm not saying convert everything, but do a series of smaller conversions over time. The key to all tax planning is to get rid of this growing, building, compounding debt, this IRA, little at a time, a series of smaller annual conversions. So over time, you're getting rid of this debt. It's like a mortgage and growing tax-free. Now the compounding's working for you in a Roth, where it's working against you in this IRA debt.
But I think what's the difference between doing a Roth conversion versus if you don't have the money to pay for the conversion, just pulling the money out and living on it and paying the low tax rate now? Just taking it out of your retirement account.
Like not converting it because you don't have enough liquidity. You really don't.
But
like
you're
we
also
hear from people like
but
that.
You're also not currently subject to RMDs.
Right. So taking the money out and doing what
just
with it?
Using it for living.
Yeah. But you're missing an opportunity. But not everybody has
That's
the
what
disposable
we're
income.
So what we're trying to think about is when we've heard from this, a lot of people, what we've been hearing is like, I did such a good job of saving for retirement. Now my kids are done, but I don't have any money like in a brokerage account. I don't have enough like liquidity. So I
would still convert if you have the money, because once it's in a Roth, you can do anything you want.
Yeah, but they don't have the money.
All right, so it's not for everybody.
So let's say that from age, what we're hoping is that from 60 to 70, like they delay taking, right?
Yeah.
So you start pulling money out, you live on that money, you delay taking your Social Security till age 70, so you max it out.
You're still knocking down the debt.
Exactly.
At low rates.
Right.
See, the secret, it's so simple to saving a fortune in taxes, and it's another one of my always rules, always true. If you always want to pay the lowest taxes, it's so simple, even CPAs don't get it. Always pay taxes at the lowest rates.
And it's so simple. So let's
what
say
you're doing really is with the rates, it's like a stock. You're buying the tax rate, like buy low and sell high. I didn't make that one up, but write that down.
Okay,
That's
let me get that.
one,
I got it. It's good.
It's like Henny Youngman once said, I'm putting all my money in taxes. The only thing sure to go up. He was right. He was right. I'm saying the same thing. You're betting on the tax rates.
Let's talk about one other part of the tax code that I think could be at risk, because I think it's the greatest thing ever, the QCD.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't think it's at risk, because the charities have great
lobbyists.
Lobbyists. So not only that, it went up for this year. That's another thing. They added an inflation rider in Secure 2.0.
Okay, so the qualified charitable distribution, which is something that can be helpful to minimize your required minimum distributions. The rule is, I don't know the whole 70 and a half thing. I want to blow my head off, but okay.
Yeah, they just never coordinated. So
exactly.
And so you have more years to do it. That's okay.
So at age 70 and a half, I've got an IRA account. It's pre-tax. Explain how the QCD works.
All right. So we were talking about Roths. Let's go back to the Roth. If you're going to do QCDs, don't keep some IRA money. Mm-hmm. See, that would be a reason not to convert everything, because if you're charitably inclined, I always use the word charitably inclined because some people disagree with me, accountants and other tax experts. They have give to charity for tax reasons. I never say that, because people always regret that, because once they find out they actually have to give the money away, I thought I'd just get a break. Yeah, because you're giving the money away.
Yeah.
So I clarify, charitable tax planning only works if you were giving the money anyway, if you're charitably inclined. if you're charitably inclined and give every year, you're no longer, for 90% of the people, getting a tax break because there's no longer itemized deductions for most people that take the standard deduction. This break allows you to get a better break than when you got itemized deductions, because itemized deductions were after you calculated your adjusted gross income, that key figure on the tax return. This actually, the QCD, qualified charitable distribution, lowers that. It comes off the top. So it's a direct transfer from your IRA to a qualified charity. And you can do that this year in 24 up to $105,000 a year.
It's amazing.
Per person. It was $100,000. Now it's $105,000. So it should be enough for most people. And what you want to do, if you give to charity, that's why I say if you give to charity, you'll always win on this, because all you're doing is, again, taking down, following my example, my rule, always pay taxes at the lowest rate, or another way to say, get that money out of the IRA at the lowest rates. You're getting it out at 0% tax rates, making a gift you would have made anyway. So it's a great way to knock it down and use the QCD. It's only available, the only downside, it's only available to IRA owners who are 70 and a half years old, or IRA beneficiaries who are also 70 and a half years old or older, not from plans. People get confused on that. They say, why can't I do it from a plan? Because it's not allowed.
Why is that, by the way? Because it's
just the way they
paperwork.
wrote. The plans probably didn't want to bother administering it.
So whatever, you can literally roll over half of your 401k and start doing it from an IRA account.
So that would be a reason to roll to an IRA and do the QCDs from there. And we found that people started doing them. It's like on automatic. They're getting all their charity. They're lowering it. And it can satisfy your RMD. So in a very simple example, let's say your RMD each year is $5,000, and you normally give, just to make the example simple, $5,000. You do the QCD for $5,000 to your favorite charity. You don't even have to take the RMD.
We did this with.
But if you give 105, but your RMD is 165, you still have to satisfy the rest of the RMD.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's what you'll have to do.
But I have to say, we did this with, we had to do this with my mom, and it worked out great.
Yeah.
So my 80-something-year-old mother. And what was so interesting about it is it actually really helped, because I said to her, I want you to identify, stop doing nickel and diming. No $50 here, no $100 there. Tell me the 5 most important charities. Let's do it. We do it once a year. It is now it's so
great.
much better. And she feels better because she knows it's happening. And all she does is she signs the forms, it gets it done, and satisfies her RMD. Now, again, we're talking about people who don't need their RMD to live on, okay? And we get that. And we're talking about people who are already charitably inclined, right? Okay. So Roth is the best. QCD is great. What is at risk in our tax code right now? What do you think could be taken away?
Well, I don't think people talk about the capital gains rate. That'll never happen. I don't know. There's too much against it. I saw online, I don't know if it was an old clip, but Warren Buffett saying, if your money earns money, you pay at a low rate. But if you toil, the way he said it, at slog at a job, you pay, a much higher rate, and that's not right.
Right.
I don't think that, people ask, is that at risk? The only thing that's at risk, I think at some point they're going to have to raise taxes. I don't know on who. I'll tell you, switching gears, something that's at risk may be people who do gift and estate planning. Because if you look at this chart, I mean, this estate exemption now is $13,600,000 per person, over $27 million a couple.
I want to be able to have an estate tax problem. I really do.
But it gets cut in half in 2 years.
Right. So let's talk about the sunsetting. That's a real risk. So we had a tax
cuts
cut
and jobs,
in 2017, end of 2017, went into effect in 18. Now, there are provisions of those tax cuts that they quote unquote sunset, meaning if the Congress does not agree, certain aspects of that on the individual side, not the corporate rates, I noticed.
Yeah, I know.
The individual tax rates go back to where they were.
Right. But other things come back. I think it would be a huge mess. People are used to the ease of the standard deduction and not doing all these itemized.
But you have to have consensus in Congress, and that seems like they can't agree what time it is.
somehow I believe they're not going to make that happen. It's just so, Mark said earlier, politically, it's a non-starter to effectively raise taxes. And that's what they're going to call it politically, even though they lowered it and now they're taking away the benefit.
But I remember during the Obama administration, something sunset from the Bush tax cuts, and it stayed.
Yeah, anything's possible. I don't think they're going to, I don't know. But at some point, I think some taxes have to go up. So I think the biggest risk, again, comes back to your growing IRA and 401k. And I would even say, stop contributing to those things. Do Roth, especially young people. That's a no-brainer. Anybody starting out, imagine if we had the ability to start out funding just Roth from $1. The greatest money-making asset anybody can possess is time. And young people have more of it than anyone else, but they don't capitalize on it. Imagine starting your first job, only Roth 401k. Now you can have matching and catch-up contributions, everything, and do your Roth IRA and never take a deduction. A deduction is a trap. You know what a deduction is for an IRA or a 401k? It's really just a loan you're taking from the government to be paid back at some future interest rate that you don't know. Imagine if you went in for a home mortgage and you're all prepared, you have all your data and your facts, and you went to all the banks and you're ready to negotiate. And you say, what's the interest rate? And the banker said, don't worry about it. No, but I did all my homework. What's the interest? Don't worry about it.
It'll be fine.
What are you talking about? When we need the money, we'll tell you what the interest rate is.
Right.
That's an IRA.
All right, here are your two choices, Ed. Pre-tax, whether it's a pre-tax 401k or a tax-deductible traditional IRA, or contribute into a brokerage account.
Right. Pretend there's no Roth option.
Oh, okay. Roth wins hands down on everything.
Of course.
Take that off the table.
Take it off
Those
the table.
I think you might.
It's got to be brokerage account. Why would you want to do ordinary income tax versus capital gains rate?
Right. Because I'm thinking you get some benefit up front, but again, you give it back. It's just a loan. You give it all back at the worst possible time in retirement when that's the last thing you want to lose anything. And you're already retired. Maybe you got laid off. So you're in this loss mode. And I don't understand that. I just saw on a different topic, there 260,000, if you saw that article in the Wall Street Journal, tech jobs, layoffs in 2023.
Yeah.
UPS laid off people. Citibank laid off 10% of its workforce.
Right.
And things are booming. I don't understand.
Well, they got rid of some things. They added other things.
Maybe it was
They went, and remember, they go a little bit overboard.
Right. So that means, a lot of this money, the last thing you want if you lost your job is to be worried about future taxes now. So you're right. The brokerage account, because you can build capital gains. And remember, the investment aspect is the same. You can gain or lose money on the same stock in an IRA or outside. And the outside money is also better for different types of investments. Like people like to invest in real estate. Again, Roth IRA is best for everything because everything grows income tax free. But real estate, I always tell people ask, can I do real estate in my IRA? Yeah, but now you're turning something that would have been capital gain and step up in basis into ordinary income.
Yeah, well, so that's the same thing when people are like, I put my house in a trust. I'm like, great, you're in the highest trust. You're in the highest bracket.
Trust brackets. And another thing on the Roth, the big benefit for the beneficiaries. Remember, there's no more stretch IRA where the beneficiaries used to go out 20, 30, 50 years. I used to talk about that all the time, but I never really saw it happen. I never saw a 30 or 50-year-old beneficiary say, well, I'm going to only take 3% this year. I found as soon as the parents died, it was like a smash and grab. I mean, so when I heard the 10-year rule, I said, oh, not so bad. And people started saying, oh, maybe I will stretch it for 10 years.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But with the Roth, there's a special benefit for the beneficiaries. The rules in the Secure Act and the IRS regulation got all mucked up where some people are subject beneficiaries in the 10 years having to take RMDs. If you inherit a Roth, you will never have RMDs during that 10-year period. So like I said, the Roth money grows during your lifetime, income tax-free for the rest of your life. You never have to take it out. and 10 years for the beneficiaries. They never have to take it out until the last day of the 10th year after death, and all that accumulation compounding in their favor, income tax free. And some of these beneficiaries, if they inherit an IRA, they may be in their own highest earnings years.
Exactly.
And the problem with the IRA that the Secure Act created with the 10-year rule, you may talk about even if rates are the same. Let's say I'm wrong about the Roth and rates went down even. First of all, let's just take the con, the pros and cons. What if I'm wrong about everything? And I always say that in my programs. What if I'm wrong?
Right.
All right, what's the worst case scenario? Because you want to know the worst case scenario. And I tell people, here's the worst case scenario. Let's say I'm wrong. You locked in a 0% tax rate for the rest of your life and 10 years beyond. That's not a bad consolation prize. You can't beat a 0% tax rate.
Or if you go back and you say, let's look at the last 20 years, maybe you're wrong by 2%. That's a top bracket.
Right,
That's about
but the problem is, even if I'm wrong and the rates stay the same, because of the 10-year rule for beneficiaries, all that income will be pushed into a shorter window. And even if the rates are the same, the tax costs will be higher.
I have one last question. I feel like there is a huge benefit to a donor advised fund.
Oh, yeah. It makes it easier. I've heard from people. I was talking to actually a tax reporter, and she said, I do it every year. It's so easy.
It's so easy, and it's such a gift, and it is unbelievable.
If you're charitably inclined.
If you're charitably inclined.
I have to say that because people say, well, what's the tax benefit?
There's like Scrooge McDuffs out there. I'm not giving any money away. But what I find interesting is with all the conversations around this is geared towards wealthy people. This is no one talks about that. I think it's an amazing gift to rich people. I really do.
It is an amazing gift, but regular people, modest income people can still put $7,000 a year if they have it or up to in a Roth and it grows tax free. Imagine if we had an account like that.
Yeah, but the donor advised fund is different because there's no limit to what you can put in, right? And you can take something with a very low cost basis. I inherited this stock. I got to step up 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And the account has grown from 100,000 to 3 million. I can now gift that low basis stock into my DAF, get a charitable deduction.
Again, it only works if the charitable deduction is large enough to push you into itemizing.
Exactly. But that's why I say I think it's like a gift to rich people. I mean, I'm happy to take advantage of it as long as it's there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable to me. So I say the Roth, the health savings account, and donor advised funds, the QCDs, these are legitimate, amazing ways to use the tax code to your benefit.
Yes, the whole point I'm making is have your money compound for you rather than against you. And I believe in an IRA or 401k, it's compounding against you every day.
What's your last question for Ed Slott?
My last question was for you. So are you rich with that donor advised fund?
First of all, I'm totally rich. I always say this to people. Someone asked me recently, well, tell me about your life story. I said, well, I was born on third base, so that's good.
Yeah.
And luckily,
and you think you hit a triple?
No, I didn't. I never. I understand that I was born on third base.
That's an old saying.
Unlike many of my cohort who were born on second or third base, I don't think I was so smart to get there. I was lucky.
Yeah.
But also, luckily, I have not gone back a base. I have not gotten picked off.
Oh, right.
You didn't get picked off.
I have
that's
not
a good
gotten
one.
picked off.
You didn't get caught in a rundown.
I have not, and I feel very comfortable about that. But I do think a lot of people who are, listen to this program, they either have money, they're making money, they're talking about these things. Not everybody. Look, rich is a funny thing because you can live. We just talked to somebody who lives in the New York metropolitan area.
But everybody likes tax free.
Exactly. But you can make $400,000 and you live in New York City or one of the surrounding suburbs, and you don't feel rich.
No.
You make $400,000 at some point in some parts of the country, you feel freaking great. So yes.
I'll tell you one place. 2 weeks ago, I was in Grand Rapids doing a seminar, and there wasn't a lot of places to eat. That happens a lot.
Radio.
Anyway, I found this little diner. I forget the name of it, but it was great. I had this. I took a picture of it.
Here he goes.
Wait a minute.
Are you a foodie, Ed? Are you a foodie?
No, I'm not. I actually yell at my kids for sending me the pictures of all this stuff. All right. I had this Hawaiian chicken thing with homemade chips, with chicken.
That looks disgusting.
It was great.
nachos.
No, the sandwich was a Hawaiian chicken with pineapple, chicken, Swiss cheese, bacon, all the food
Oh,
groups.
yeah.
All
right.
right. And
Heart attack on a
Wait
plate.
a minute. All right. And then I got the check.
hold on. The check was $13.78, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so go take all your money and your Roth savings in Grand Rapids.
So certain places.
Ed Slott, cannot thank you enough for joining us again. Hey, gang, if you have questions about Roths and conversions, just go to our website, JillOnMoney.com, click the Contact Us button. Let us know if you would like to join us. If you missed the last episode with Ed, go check that out. We always are so grateful for everyone here at the compound who makes this show possible. There's my co-host, Mark
Oh, me?
Talercio. Yes, hello. And there is Duncan, and there is John, and there is Daniel, and Nicole behind the scenes. And we are very happy that you watch every single week. So thank you so much. Do something nice for someone else today. You ready? Change your work, change your wealth, change your life. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you next time.